Well, this is going to be a fun review because I am clearly the odd man out, and I am so happy about that. So I'm going to review Passenger, but first, I'm going to give you a little bit of a story and a slight, very small, not rant, but observation. So when I got out of Passenger, I had a couple people already expecting a personal review of what I thought about the film. You know, just the traditions. You always have those people that you tell what you thought about those films first before you tell anybody else. So I said I really enjoyed this movie, and they were surprised because apparently the discourse is bad. Now, I don't look at reviews about any movies I watch, at least not before watching them or before reviewing them. And seldom do I ever. But I had to because apparently the divide was big. So I researched it after watching the movie, and this is the Rotten Tomato score. Now, I read some of these reviews, and I noticed buzzwords. You know, in espionage films, thriller, spy films, whenever they have anchors speaking about something that happened that they can't tell the truth about. So they all get scripts, buzzwords to say on camera. Well, a lot of those reviews sounded like buzzwords. I shit you not. I found an insane amount of buzzwords and phrases in those reviews. And not to discredit these reviewers, because I don't know them from their asshole. But buzzwords are an interesting thing. Another thing that I noticed, and I think is very unfair, is a comparison to Obsession. Now, maybe it's weird to have nuance nowadays, and I think it is. I think it's a superpower that some of us have harnessed and others have not. Especially in the film critique side of things, which a lot of people say film critique is dead, and I kind of agree. I don't think I'd ever sell my soul to Rotten Tomatoes. But when they compare it to Obsession, this obsession that we have with Obsession, I look at it and I go, where the fuck and how the fuck? Obsession is an existential film, an exploration of relationship tropes and the dark side of love. And as much as we want to say it's original, and as much as I loved it, I can tell you that movie is one part Fatal Attraction, another part It Follows, several parts Hereditary. This movie is not original. It's just executed to perfection. So when another movie that is in a different subgenre of horror is hurt because it's not Obsession, then I know what kind of critic you are. Listen, Andre Overdell does specific kinds of films. His films are very straightforward. The Autopsy of Jane Doe. It's a witch film that takes place during an autopsy. Troll Hunters. It's a kaiju film with a local folklore attached to it. The Last Voyage of Demeter is an entire film based on a single chapter of Dracula. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is an adaptation of a series of short stories from books called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And they have their cult following. Some people don't like them. I personally enjoy every single one of them. I think that this horror director is indeed a director that has yet to fail me. He doesn't make the best films ever, but he does make cohesive, enjoyable horror films that I will happily show up for, especially after this one. So we're comparing Curry Barker's vision to Andre Overdell's vision. Doesn't make sense to me because we're so in love as a people to one film. We can't separate ourselves and use nuance to critique another film in a completely in a different subgenre of horror for what it is, a road horror movie. It's trying to be an Andre Overdell film. Now, does that speak for quality? No, because quality is completely based on the film and the subgenre that you're attaching yourself to. Before going into this movie, my mind was, I might get another Joyride or another Jeepers Creepers or another Duel, anything along those lines. Another High Tension, obviously with Demon, but I'm going to get another movie that I don't get a lot of. This is a peak road horror film. The movie is simple. It's a couple leave their life behind to live the dream of being van lifers. And of course, one is more about it than the other. That comes up a few times during the film. And are they the most enjoyable people to follow on a road trip? No, they have nothing on these two. Trish and Derry from Jeepers Creepers have the brotherly, sisterly banter that makes them hilarious to listen to throughout the entire movie. And Paul Walker and Steve Zahn's characters in Joyride are a fucking hoot, and also the idiots that got themselves caught up in a situation where now a random trucker wants to skin them alive for pulling a prank on him. Simple stories, wonderful characters. Are these characters as funny as them? No. But what this film does incredibly well, and I will say that this is probably the best road horror film I've seen since Jeepers Creepers or High Tension. I have no problem saying that. I have a soft spot for this genre. I love this subgenre of horror. So I feel very, very much inclined to find my next obsession when it comes to these kinds of films. And I think that if you love these films, this one's going to scratch every itch you have. It makes the road feel absolutely terrifying. They live in a van where their only defense are the cameras outside and those 3 inches of steel between them and the outside world. And Andre Overdell understands that the scariest thing about that is that you really have nowhere to go except inside your van. And once your van has a flat tire or something happens to the engine, your glass gets fucking destroyed and it's all over your fucking floor and you realize that you are in fact exposed. That's where the horror lies. My man uses diners. My man makes the woods terrifying. There's one standout sequence that was chef's kiss, a horror fan's complete and utter dream and nightmare. He makes the woods terrifying. You know those videos that you watch on YouTube, scariest camp encounters? He's watched those, and he's given you the scariest camp encounter you can imagine. He understands the genre that he's playing with, and he gave me the best version of that, where lighting was key to make me feel like the road was endless and terrifying, make me feel like the woods were endless and terrifying and belonged not to them, but to that entity that clearly knows more about the darkness than they do. It made the interior of the van, their safety, also horrifying, and gave me a sense of invasion when this thing that is not human is able to just pop up and let them know, hey, I could kill you if I wanted, but I'm not gonna. I like to season my food like Pennywise or Freddy. I like to freak you the fuck out before I get all up in that ass. So Andre Overdell understands that. And not only does he understand that, but this movie is shot with so much atmosphere. The roads are scary. If you've ever been stuck outside in the middle of the road with car issues at 2 a.m. on a mountain peak with fog coming across the fucking concrete and just your headlights to pave the way, hoping that you can maybe change the tire before some rando comes up to you and asks you if you need help, or something comes rolling through the bushes or falling off the trees, obviously not there to help, but to get in your ass. This movie gets it. Now, it has a shitload of jump scares. Anybody who knows me knows jump scares don't get me at all. But I was in a theater of people, full of people who loved jump scares. They worked, and they're efficient. Because the tropes built the genre, and when tropes are executed properly, it makes for an enjoyable horror movie. When we go at Obsession and say it's the best movie ever made, but we don't call out that it has tropes, and I agree. It's a fantastic film that I really enjoy. Might be on my top 5 this year. But then when we go at another movie, and because we want to shit on it, we mention the tropes. Tropes perfectly executed in the same way the tropes of Obsession were perfectly executed. For its specific subgenre, I go, what the fuck? What crack pipe are we all sharing? This is not about me going at other people's opinion. I implore you, make an opinion for yourself. If you feel like this movie is going to appeal to you, I guarantee you it probably is. Because if what you're looking for is a perfectly executed road horror film that has a very beautiful, dark gloomy, dreary, and isolated look and aesthetic that understands lighting and shadow and has an ever menacing fucking villain, this is the one. Why do I call this the best since Jeepers Creepers? Well, because this gave me what I loved about Jeepers Creepers. The road isn't your friend. It belongs to everything else except you. That's why we need cars to live in, to be outside. And this makes the villain menacing. This thing that you slowly get lore sprinkled across the film about, just enough to understand that this thing could get to them at any moment. There's a whole group of nomads that know about this thing, but decide not to talk about it. Yeah, you get the trope, people that know that don't want to talk about it. It's a road horror film. The best versions of these movies are simplistic, high tensions. Jeepers Creepers, Duel, The Hitcher. None of these movies are original, but they are perfectly executed in their tropes. That's what makes them great. The tropes, they work for a reason. And every movie is going to supersede a trope. And I think that the critics have a huge issue with not understanding nuance. Parts of a movie can work and other parts could not work. And that doesn't mean the movie is immediately shit. What I love about this movie too is there are rules that they have to abide by. Rules that don't just get skipped over or forgotten. No, this movie follows the rules it sets. Makes it exciting. Horror works when you have rules that you know at some point you can't break, or they're hard to break, or you know someone will break them. And that's part of the fun. This movie does an excellent job setting guidelines, setting a world building of this van life, right? Because we haven't had a horror film, road horror film, where van life is the prominent key factor here, right? This is your house. Where you go, that thing follows. But this is your house. You can't abandon your house. We haven't had a horror film that has explored that. This does. This already does something different from other road horror films by implementing that dynamic into the horror sequences. And the build up to these horror sequences are fantastic. I'm not a big jump scare guy, but what he does is he catered to the jump scare individual and the people who like build up. Before every single jump scare, there is such a dreadful build up to those jump scares that you know are coming. But part of the fun is you're hyper focused on the screen because you know they're coming. And somehow they still fucking get you. But everything that comes before that is built on this sort of sleight of hand, magic work, right? They're making you look at shit. He's playing with lighting. He's playing with sound. He's playing with illusion in the road. He's using the illusion of the woods and the trees. And I'm like, this guy gets it. He chose a simple premise because he wanted to really accentuate the set pieces. There are a lot of great set pieces in this movie, particularly the one in the woods. The one in a parking lot, that was fantastic because anyone, as a child or as a woman who's walked across a parking spot alone, can relate to walking and hearing footsteps and then stopping, being paralyzed because they can hear but see and look around. The way that Andre just shoots these open spaces and uses them. You know, it's really hard to make an open space feel creepy. Somehow he manages to make the outside exterior feel isolating and also claustrophobic. The third act is so batshit insane that even the characters have to go, this can't be real. Because we built up so much of this lore to get to this point. When we get to the third act, we go batshit crazy for a little while. And I was like, wow, dude, good job, man. You get it. You sat my ass down on a chair in a dark theater with loudspeakers and made everything work for me. The dark theater, the loudspeakers, the big screen, this movie. And I hate that now. And I've been kind of guilty because I've told people, I know people. I'll go, hey, you can watch this on streaming because I know that people don't just go to the movies nowadays. But if it were up to me, every fucking movie that was good, you just go watch in the theater. That's just me. Call me a loser. I don't care. My point is, this movie should be watched in a theater. Because if you watch this movie once, it should be in the best environment possible. Not at your house. You should be in the theater, kicking your feet up, sitting back, bring a nice fucking blanket, go to a loud theater full of people, sit back and immerse yourself. Put the phone away and immerse yourself in this very well executed Roadhouse horror film. Roadhouse? What the fuck? Road horror film that understands what makes these films tick, what makes fans like me love these kinds of films, and goes, we haven't had one in a while. I gotcha. We have not had one in a while, but I got you. And he had me. My boy has me. If you like any of those other films that I have mentioned, fuck the critics. All these lipstick booty critics who just want to hit the buzzword so they get the clicks, so they get paid, who are just they're too, I don't know, they're too burnt out on film, they're too burnt out on horror. Watch it for yourself. Make an opinion. If you come back here and say, I fucking hate you, you're the worst reviewer ever, I'll send you a thumbs up and tell you I love you. Because you know what? At least you still went and saw it. And that being said, thank you guys for ever getting me closer to 1,000. We're almost there. I'm so close because of you guys. I appreciate it. You guys keep showing up to my videos and my reactions and all this dumb shit and just watching me age before your eyes, descending into the chaos that is humanity. I appreciate you all. And as always, I'll see you at the movies.